So, hi Roberto. I wanted just to know, what was your first Hello World? Which programming language? When was it and why?
Hi, Adam. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's a real pleasure to have this conversation with you. So actually, I think if I have to go to my first Hello World, I will guess that my first one was done in Pascal, probably like in 96 or 97.
Mhm.
That was when I was on high school, and basically that was the language that they were teaching back then.
Mhm.
So I remember that I really sucked in programming at that time because it was, that was um, my first contact with a programming language. Uh, I've done a couple of things on HTML at that time, but I mean, you cannot really consider HTML a programming language, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, I the first couple of things I did was in Pascal. I remember doing a couple of small projects for high school on Pascal.
Was it Turbo Pascal?
Yeah, Turbo Pascal, yes.
Yeah.
Version 4 or 5, I believe.
Okay.
I can't remember exactly, but it's like so long ago. And I remember that I had like terrible grades on the first couple of projects. But then I did improve a little bit, and it was a little bit better by the end of the year.
Okay. I also have some experience with Turbo Pascal. So I started with Basic, and the next language was Turbo Pascal. I forgot the version, but I know still my PC was Intel 8086. So it's one of the first Intel CPUs.
Oh yeah.
And the Pascal was delivered with on floppy disks. I
Yeah,
think. Yeah.
yeah.
So it was like the first disk was the environment. This was like ASCII-based editor, I remember. And on the another disk, I could save my program, something like this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you're a little bit uh, older than me in that regards, because not talking about age, but basically, I think when I started with Turbo Pascal was already on a 486,
Mm-hmm.
so it was like the fourth generation already.
Mm-hmm.
So
But I think I bought really cheaply my 8086, and it was in 1994. And I guess
yeah,
this because there was one company going bankrupt, and I just bought the PC. It was really cheap, and this was my programming environment. I think at that time we already had the fourth series from Intel.
okay.
So, but I'm
So,
quite young, to be honest.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
one of the youngest Java developers.
Yeah, you're like 20.
So cool. And then, what was your road to Java?
So Java, that's actually a funny story because I told this story a couple of times to other people. My first contact with Java was, so as I mentioned before, I did a couple of things on HTML, right? And then I wanted to enhance, so I had a couple of pages online about some things that I really enjoyed. So I have like a page about Dragon Ball, which is like an anime manga. And I really wanted to enhance it a little bit, but I had no idea why. I mean, like HTML was like super, well, I mean, it's super limited, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I start looking into things that I could do to enhance it, and of course, then I come with a little bit with JavaScript. But then I found Java and applets, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were like super popular at that time to do applets on web. So I start at that time already have, of course, internet. This was like 97 or 98. And then I start looking on how to do things. And of course, at that time, the information that you could find was super limited, right? So I went to a bookstore and I bought a book that was called Learn Java in 21 Days.
Mm-hmm.
So then I start to follow the book, and basically I start to write. Then I probably write my second or third Hello World. So first one was on Pascal, the second one was on C, and the third world was on Java.
And you managed to learn it in 21 days?
That's a very good question. I actually don't remember because I only learned what I required, which was to do a couple of Java applets. So it probably took me more than 21 days because I didn't have enough time. Well, I mean, I was in high school, but that was like side projects, so I was not like looking into that every day. But I remember had a lot of fun doing it. And then I remember like looking into the Java docs, I believe of JDK 1.1, which, if you remember, there were these really crappy Java docs with like all these colors, rainbows, and stuff like that. I don't know if you remember that. But yeah, then I remember then I ended up doing a couple of applets for a school over here, which it doesn't exist anymore, but it was like a school that teaches young kids to work with computers.
Cool. Where was the school? In Portugal?
Yes, in Portugal, in Coimbra. That's where I live.
And what doesn't exist? Your applet or the school?
No, the school. I mean, the school doesn't exist anymore.
But it was not fault of your applet, right?
No, I think not.
Okay.
So basically, they were teaching like I mean, at the time, like computers, they were not really available to everyone like they are today, right? So they were like teaching kids to like learn how to use Windows, Excel, Word, and other stuff. And then I did a couple of applets with like a couple of games for the kids. So I remember I did like this game. I don't know what's the name in English, but it's kind of like probably like Hangman. Is that correct? Do you know? So is that where you have like a word you have to guess, and then you just start drawing. Every time you miss, you draw like a new piece of the hangman, and then when you complete the drawing, then the man is hanged, and basically you lose. It's no. Actually, speaking about it, it probably doesn't sound very well and doesn't seem to be very educated for the kids. But that was one of the things I've done. I remember doing
why you did it?
one.
What drove you? So why?
Well, I mean, I it was basically to learn. So I wanted to learn how to do the Java applets. So then I started learning doing the applets themselves and learning how to draw on the applets. So like doing the part of the hangman really helped me. And then I started to evolve a little bit the games that I wrote. I've done another one which it's not called. It's probably heard about that. It's like the 8-ball, where but I did it like with a witch. So the idea is that you will ask the witch a question and she will give you an answer, and then of course the answer will change depending on what you type to the witch.
Okay, this is like Siri, right?
Like a what? Sorry.
Apple Siri or Alexa.
Yeah, but way less evolved, right? It was like very limited. Only have like 15 or 20 pre-scripted answers. But the idea with that was basically to learn how to handle inputs. So that was fun as well.
Cool.
And then finally, I remember doing this, and probably that's the one that I'm most proud of. I did like a board game. That's actually the board game actually exists. It's like called Quads. I'm not sure if you heard about that before, but basically it's just like a board game. We have like a couple of pieces with like lines or white and black drawings. And the idea is that you have a board, you have a couple of pieces in, and then you have to match you have to put the pieces in, and you have to match them with the ones that are near you. So basically, if you on one side of the piece you have a black drawing, you have to match it to another piece which has a black drawing on the other side, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
And basically then if you're not able to put the piece in the board because all the spots are filled in, or you're not able to find a place to put the board because there is no way to match anything, then you lose.
This is not similar, but a Go is I mean,
a little bit.
Yeah.
Interesting because I the probably Java 9 is not going to work anymore. But I remember I was like, and that was done, I think, on JDK 1.1. And I remember I did try it, running it with like JDK 1.7, and it was still working just fine, which was super interesting, right? Probably Java with JDK 9, I'm not sure if that will work.
What I did 2-3 years ago, I started, it was just for fun, and so like a Christmas special edition of one of my screencasts. And I launched the very first IDE. I think it was Java Studio Workshop and Java Studio Creator, I think was the name.
Okay.
On the recent machine, and the performance was great. It was like unbelievably fast. And I remember that back then, there were no articles about the IDEs that they are slow, but 2 years ago it was like lightning fast, right?
Oh yeah, that was interesting because most of the projects that I wrote at that time, I coded on Notepad, right? Because if there was, I was so newbie. I didn't know what an IDE was, and I'm not even sure if there was one at that time.
Yeah, it was.
So I didn't know Notepad, which basically you will try to compile it, see the errors, and of course, most of the times
This is also what I did. Notepad, and then use IDEs because I was curious what they actually are doing. So now, what was your first commercial Java project?
So I will guess that my first commercial Java project. I worked on when I basically ended up university and I went for an internship. I worked on several projects on that company, but most of them were internal, even though some of them have a couple of commercial features and they ended up selling it. But I will guess that I have to say one project that I'm also really proud of, which is an integration system that integrates all the insurance companies here in Portugal.
Wow.
So the idea.
This was your first commercial project, such a thing?
Yeah. As I say, I work on other projects before that, but those were like internal on the company. So the interesting thing about the company I was working on, they usually have internships and like newcomers come and work on their internal projects first, so people get experience and learn about stuff and learn how the company works and all the technologies that they were using. And after that, they will move you to their commercial stuff. I think it was actually a great way to get into things because you don't have much pressure. Of course, you'll have pressure, but if you make a mistake, which is very normal because you're still learning, it's not going to have that much of an impact when you're working to a customer, right?
Yeah, sure, it's a good idea. But was it a Java E project?
Yeah, so it's the project already existed. So the company came and they wanted to migrate the project. So it was just it was the project at the time was just using JSPs and servlets. So and this was like 2000. Well, they're talking about 2007 or 2006, right? And they wanted to make like a more modern application. So at that time we moved to use Java E5. That was the one that was out at that time, and we used Git for the UI. At that time it was like, I wouldn't say it was like super popular, but
you like Git?
Well, I not really, but that was not my call.
Yeah. It was terrible from the beginning. So I just look at that. It was slow. The hosted mode, like the preview mode, was not always the same what you saw. The error handling was terrible. And what really stunned me, it seemed at that time that many developers were really delighted of the Git. It was like, okay, this is something wrong with me probably, because I just cannot get it.
Yeah, I mean, the decision was not made by me, but
No,
that's
of
not
course.
like that was not I'm not using that as an excuse. Um, but you're right. I mean, we got into all of these issues, and we even have more because we have to build all these rich UIs. But we have to build all these rich UIs with data grids and these custom forms with select combo boxes and completable combo boxes. And if you're looking into WIT at that time, they didn't have any components, so we ended up writing all of the components ourselves for our project.
Oh.
I remember one of the things that I had to do. I wrote like a completable combo future box, which basically was like an auto-completable combo box from a data source, which they didn't have, and we used to joke back then, which basically means you're building a house, right? That's you're building a project, you're building a house, and you also have to build your bricks at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay, and but this was your first Java EE project, and you liked Java EE back then, or?
Yeah, I mean, I really, for me it was like super great because those internal projects that I talked to you about before, we were using J2EE 1.4. So all the 5 classes to implement an EJB, like remote interface, local interface, all that.
Local home, EJB jar, XML.
Exactly, all of that, all that XML, which basically it was a pain to implement, right?
Yeah, and you used Xdoclet for generating that, or you did it by hand?
Xdoclet, yes, and MiddleGen.
Yeah, MiddleGen, exactly.
Yeah, exactly, yes. We were using all of that to do generation, yes. But and then of course when JDK5 got out with annotation support, and then you have Java E5 with annotations replacing most of the XML and simplifying, especially all the EJB spec. I mean, that was like a breeze of fresh air, right? Because
you know what? Right now, all the Angular projects really remember the old days with Xdoclet. In order to have a button on the screen, you have fire up your command line interface, which generates you modules, exports, imports, and all the stuff just to have button on screen, which was very similar to early Java E5 days. And a lot of developers are delighted about Angular, and I just cannot get it. It's like, okay, we had that, back then. 10 years ago, and now the history repeats.
Yeah, exactly. And interesting because now, like changing a little bit of this of what we're talking about here, but making a comparison between that, I find interesting that people complain a lot about Maven and our dependency tool, and then on JavaScript, people seem to be happy with all the dependency management that exists on JavaScript, which for me it's like I don't know how people can handle that.
Yeah, this cool story. Yesterday in a project where we just use web standards, and they asked me about NPM, and told them we won't use NPM. We don't have any external dependencies. We will just use web standards. And then they were, is it possible? It's like, yes. And then we had to hack a little bit together, and it worked, and they were really delighted. But
awesome.
Yeah. What was your first Java 1? I met you. I don't know how and why. But
I remember when we first met.
And when was it? And was it your first Java 1? Or
it was my first Java 1.
And why you were there? So why a Java 1? And yeah, what was your road to Java 1?
So, I mean, I heard about the conference before, and I was like really curious to go there and see what was going on. And of course, I also wanted to visit San Francisco, so there was like a two-in-one thing. I mean, one of the things that I felt on my career was that I was doing things on my own and was not really looking on what was around me, on what was happening. So I thought that going to the Java one, which was basically the main event about Java for the year. So I decided just to go there and try to look on what was going on. And I mean, I didn't regret it at all.
When was it? 2009?
I think it was 2012.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I remember meeting you, and thank you so much for some of the advices that you gave me. So we met, if you remember. There was this J-Elastic party.
Okay.
Where like basically David and Amelia invited me there. At the time they didn't have the company. They were basically they were partnership, some stuff with TomEE with J-Elastic. So they came to the party and I also went there, and you were there. And basically we end up meeting. And I remember basically I was talking to you about in Portugal there was like not a big community about Java, and then you gave me like some really cool advice about like starting a jug and try to evolve the community. And I guess that you should feel proud of yourself, because those advices that you gave me were like super useful. And as you probably know, I follow your advice. I created the jug over here on my city. We do regular meetings. At the moment, we are almost 500 members.
Hey, cool! I didn't know this.
Yeah, I mean, not all of them active, you know.
Yeah.
That's and probably some of them are not even on the city anymore. As you know, like people move around and, and stuff.
But, so how many of the 500 at the JAG members like Java E?
I mean, I think most of them liked it, because we since I my background is a lot of Java E. I ended up having a lot of sessions around Java E, and we do end up having a lot of people coming. So usually our meetings, most of them are now between 50 to 60 people showing up.
Very cool.
Which I think it's great. Okay. And some of the companies here in the city. So the one that I was working on when I did my internship, most of their stack they're using Java EE. Cool. Other companies here in the city are also using Java EE as a stack. So I think it's very popular here, and people really enjoy it.
Yeah, this is really cool. Okay, so I didn't remember that part. So what I remember, I attended some of your sessions, and they were really great. So you had like batch processing with a game you did, high performance, something like this, and they were really interesting sessions. And I thought we met after the session. I forgot about the party.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that was like a little bit before. I mean, at that time, I guess, I mean, I was like just a new guy coming in, and for you met so many people, right?
No, I remember talking with you, but I forgot about the party. So I remember exactly the conversation with you, but I absolutely forgot about Jelastic party.
No worries.
Yeah.
So then I ended up being so excited about everything happening on Java 1 that I tried to start submitting sessions. And then I came up with that batch session. Actually, I was like a new speaker, so that I think that was my first. Yeah, that was my first session that I got accepted on Java 1. And one of I don't remember who told me this, but I got this pretty cool advice, which was, I mean, you're a new speaker. If you want to speak at the conference, especially Java 1 or even others, try to submit on sessions that people, or try to submit on topics that people don't submit.
Yeah.
Right. So, for instance, now, what's like the super trend right now is like microservices, right? But if you submit something about microservices, you're like competing with like 30 or 40 or 50 people that are also submitting sessions about microservices. So the chances for you to get selected are way low. Now, if you submit about something that might be interesting, but no one else is submitting about that topic, your chances to get accepted are higher.
You are absolutely right. So I tried, my first Java 1 was in the year 2000, and I wanted to really speak at Java 1. This was like my goal to try that. And I submitted proposals until 2007. So the first talk was accepted was in 2007. And this was the craziest talk ever. It was that the topic was how I hack my heating control with Java E5. And
cool.
Yeah, really cool. And this was actually a fun project for me, what I did on a weekend. And all the other projects were really useful. This is what I actually did in my commercial life, was like Java EE architectures and simplification, what I usually do. And they were all rejected. But this one talk, which actually didn't make sense to me, was accepted. And then it was well received by the attendees. And then it was easier for me to get talks accepted. But it was really hard at Sun Microsystem time. So the talks were reviewed. Then you had someone from Sun Microsystem who reviewed your slide and gave you feedback. Then it was reviewed again on site at Java 1 in Moscone. And as Oracle took over, all the reviews were gone. So it was now it's a lot easier to talk at Java 1 than it was before.
Yeah, I didn't have that idea because I have my first Java 1 was already with Oracle in the lead. So, but I mean, it's good. It's an interesting story because I mean, people now go to Java 1, which now Oracle Code 1, by the way. And
what is your feeling on that?
Yeah, I mean, the feeling that I have on that is I think the identity of the conference got a little bit lost in the middle somehow.
Absolutely, yes.
So one of the things that I believe that was not very good was, and this is not just with this year, it was also last year. Last year there was still Java 1, but they are doing, so Oracle, they're doing Open World and Java 1 on the same site or the same location, which I understand. I mean, for logistics and costs, of course, but that ends up like mixing like two crowds of two different conferences that are for two different profiles of people.
Yes, right? And this is what I actually don't understand, because if the goal from Oracle is with Code 1 to invite more broader community from all other languages, I guess the goal is always also to get some fresh developers in, young developers with experiences different languages. But as you probably know, the hotels are crazy expensive in the Oracle Open World time. And young developers, I guess, are not really interested in Oracle Open World. It looks like, big enterprise ESB conference to me, like process management and all the stuff. So I think it could be a better idea to completely separate the conferences, and then they could be even more successful, I guess.
I agree. So having both at the same time, they especially having like people. I mean, it's not that I'm against the Oracle Open World people, but they're a different crowd, right? They're not developers. Most of them are like managers and business people. And nothing against them, but it's sometimes weird to see like people on T-shirts and hoodies, which are like developers, mixed in with suits people, right? It gives like a vibe on the conference that's not really the right one, and and for some reason, this is a critique that I have to make to Oracle Code 1 and even Java 1 last couple of years, which I don't really understand. Like the conference, I mean, as a speaker, you do get a free ticket for getting into the conference. But attendees, they pay a lot of money. So I think, I'm not sure how much the cheapest ticket is, but I think it's like in the range of like $1.5K, which is a huge amount of money. but I don't really understand how a conference that has all these ticket price plus all the sponsorship that they have, which probably it's like super expensive for the sponsors as well. They don't record all the sessions. They don't have proper conditions on the room. So I don't know if you experienced that, but basically the slides, the projectors are not really that great. And this ridiculous thing happened to me when I was like presenting stuff this year, which was I was doing my sessions with another person, and we were asking to have 2 headsets for mics, and they only had 1 per room.
Yes, but I think this is what I guess this is out of scope from Oracle. I guess that there's another company which provides these services, and they could even belong to Moscone. I actually had a chat with one technician there, and he told me he works for Moscone, and they had several conferences in a row, and every conference gets the same equipment. I don't think they have lots of influence regarding the projectors and mics.
Maybe, but I mean, for me, it's ridiculous because
Yeah, of course. No, I just wanted to, to explain.
I understand, but for the speaker or even for the attendees, they're not going to blame. They don't know that.
Yeah, you're right.
They're just going to say the conference doesn't provide this, and I'm paying like a lot of money, and I'm not even able to see the sessions again because not all of them are recorded, or the sound is crap, or the video.
I have one real criticism. There was not enough coffee. For me, it was really hard to find some coffee. I really needed coffee. And what I will do in case of Oracle, there will be the standard coffee plus, like nice cappuccino machines or whatever. So this is what they should do. And there was not even coffee in speaker room. I don't even know where the speaker room was, but yeah, I couldn't find it. I asked people where is the speaker room, and no one knew where it is.
It was on the 4th floor.
Okay.
It was on the 4th floor, and I believe it didn't have any coffee there either.
Okay.
That's the right criticism. But actually, for me, I didn't really remember about it because I don't drink coffee.
Oh, but you are still developer, right?
I'm still developer. Yeah. I know. Well, it's like I don't drink coffee for a reason, which is it doesn't do anything to me anymore. I used to drink Coke, and I drink I drink so many Coke on my early years. I used to drink like 2 liters a day for like 20 years or so. And I believe like caffeine doesn't do anything to me anymore.
Yeah, for me, it doesn't do either. But what I really like, the taste of coffee. So I really like good coffee. So if the taste is bad, I don't like it and I don't drink it. But if the coffee is nice with lots of milk, I really like it. So okay, cool. Now, next question. You are working for TomEE Tribe, right?
Yeah.
You are a TomEE Triber or you are a freelancer working for TomEE Tribe?
Well,
you're an employee.
I'm an employee, yes.
Cool. So. What was your road to TomEE Tribe? What's
my
road? So how is how you started with TomEE Tribe?
Oh yeah, so that was one of the things that also happened to me that was funny on the conference side. So when I start doing conferences and start doing the speaking, I ended up meeting David, she's the CEO, and also Amelia.
David Blevins, right?
David Blevins, yes. So for people that probably most of you heard about him, but if you don't, he's one of the persons that is behind some of the things that we were talking about here a while ago about the EJB-free spec and all the simplification that was done. So it was on him. And
openEJB committed, which is like a really fast EJB container with Apache license.
Yeah, I was going to go on there exactly next. So basically, we have the spec, and then he has an implementation about that spec, openEJB, which is a foundation for TomEE, an EE server based on Tomcat. I was doing all the conferences and doing some sessions, and at that time I was working as a freelancer. I guess I was doing a couple of sessions around the EE as well. So the batch stuff, and I was doing a few sessions about the new stuff coming on E7. And I guess they really enjoyed the way that I work, and they made me an invitation. So I considered it, and I ended up joining them. So for me, it was interesting because most of the time I ended up like developing applications using a container, and now I'm working on the container itself, which is a little bit different than doing applications. So
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting, right? So it's like sometimes you just do like 5 or 6 lines of code and you have like a JAX-RS endpoint working, or you do like a couple of lines and you have like a CDI beam, and it looks like super simple, but then you're forgetting the crazy amount of lines that are underneath that actually do all of that happen.
Yeah, how it should be, because now you can, as a single person, writing, crazy amounts of lines, and the whole world can just use, your stuff.
Yeah.
So what was your first project at TomEE, or your first task? So how you started with TomEE? So your first day at TomEE, or your first line of code?
The first day in TomEE, or in TomEE Tribe, what I did was I started actually writing some documentation around a couple of trainings that we had around TomEE, which was useful for me as well, because I knew TomEE, but I didn't know it from a developer perspective working on TomEE. Not that I know it as a developer using TomEE, but not as a developer working on TomEE. Right, that's like a subtle difference over there. But yeah, I mean, so I started doing a couple of training materials to TomEE, so that was useful for me to also learn a few things that I didn't know about. And after a few weeks working on that, I then start doing work with some of our customers and helping them out to set up their projects using EE, and of course using TomEE as a container for those projects.
So you started with consulting, so consulting projects,
yeah, consulting projects, and basically like doing pretty much like what we do with Microprofile now. So helping. At the time, Microprofile didn't exist, but basically we were already advising people to develop their projects using CDI, JAX-RS, JSON-P. So all of that, and of course you could pick up other specs if you like most of the projects, as you know, probably, or the average projects for these companies are like using JAX-RS, CDI, JPA, and JSON-P, and maybe one or more things, but usually those are the cookie cutters, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but what you also did, you started to work on TomEE Core, right?
Yeah, not at the beginning. So I was I believe that TomEE Tribe, of course we have a few customers, and they wanted me to use the experience that I had as a freelancer working with customers as well to do that. So we had other people in the company working in TomEE. But the interesting thing about our company is, since it's still a startup, right? You end up having to wear many hats, right? So you end up like moving super quick from one world to another. So in a few weeks I was doing consultancy, and then a couple of weeks later I was doing training, and a couple of weeks later I might be working on TomEE for like 1 week or two, and then I was back to consultancy, and then I was doing blog, and then I was doing our product. So it is interesting in a way that you don't really get bored, because you're doing a lot of stuff at the same time.
Exactly what I'm doing. So I'm also a startup.
Yeah. But you're alone, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But what you're saying is exactly what I'm doing, except I don't have a product. I usually have some proof of concepts, but what you are describing here is exactly what happens to me. And this is great. So I never got bored in the last 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, For us, it's never gets boring. So in the last month, or in the last couple of months, and that was probably the most amount of time that I have dedicated to TomEE. And the reason for that was we wanted to push microprofile a microprofile implementation inside TomEE, and especially to have it ready for Code 1. We had a few sessions, or we had a couple of sessions actually, that were using TomEE and Microprofile.
So what you actually did, so you took the TomEE 7 source code and then put the...
Actually TomEE 8. So
TomEE
we did it for TomEE 7 for a couple of specs, but we had to do it on TomEE 8 because...
So TomEE 8 was ready then? So you took the TomEE 8?
Yeah, TomEE 8 is mostly ready.
It was ready as you started, or you implemented TomEE 8?
No, it was already done by the community.
Okay.
So there are still a couple of missing pieces, but what usually happens is, of course, you have the source code, and like people go there whenever they have time, and they'll just contribute.
No question. What is the killer feature from TomEE 8?
Killer feature for TomEE 8. I mean, I like all the features actually. So of course we have EE8 support.
Or most interesting features, you know. So we have TomEE 8 is Java 8, right?
Yeah. So we did like a few years ago, we did like a shift on the version. So if you remember, there was like TomEE 1, and TomEE 1.5, TomEE 1.6, TomEE 1.7.
Exactly.
But that was a little bit confusing. So we realigned the TomEE version with the EE version. So basically TomEE 7 is EE7, TomEE 8 is EE8. Now we're not exactly sure what we're going to do with Jakarta, because now Jakarta is going to reset the version to version 1, right? So we took that decision without, I mean, it was like a few years ago. We didn't know what's going to happen with the EE.
Yeah, you could do 10 then, right?
Yeah, maybe you can just move to 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
Again, regarding the killer feature, I mean, for me, the killer feature, I won't say that's for TomEE 8, but I guess it's for the entire TomEE overall, which is, I think it's like a super fast environment. So it starts up in like just a couple of seconds, and that was always like that. It's always going to be like that.
Less than this. Right? So it was the fastest. So a couple of seconds like Glassfish, and yours starts, you know, in 1 to 2 seconds. So it's crazy fast, yeah.
So I think that people enjoy that, and so it's not like a killer feature that comes on 8, but it's a killer feature that always comes on every version.
And but it supports EE8, right?
Yeah, it supports EE8. So CDI, the CDI improvements, which is CDI 2.0. Then the new JAX-RS version as well, 2.1. Then there are a couple of other specs that have like some minor improvements, like JSON-P, on JSON-B, of course, as a new spec. The only thing that we're missing at this time, so TomEE 8 is not final yet, so we're still only on milestone 1. All the stuff is mostly there. For TomEE 8, for EE8, we're still missing the EE security API, which is a new spec. But I believe we can implement that super quick. So we hope that we're going to implement that in the next couple of weeks to keep moving the server forward.
Will you implement it from scratch or take an already existing implementation?
Well, we have to look. So we end up using existing implementations if they exist on the Apache projects, because TomEE is Apache license. If we are able to find a project that already implements that using an Apache license, then we should be able to reuse an implementation. But if not, then we have to implement our own, or implement it as an Apache project and then use it in TomEE, which that's what ended up happening. So if you look into now, talking a little bit about the internals, TomEE is mostly like an integration project, because all the implementations are actually separate projects. So, for instance, CDI is actually openWebBeans, which is a separate project on its own. JPA is also actually openJPA, which is a separate project on its own. JAX-RS using CFX, which is a separate project on its own, right? So then what TomEE does is just pick up all these Apache projects and integrates them into the server itself to give you the environment.
And JMS?
And JMS is ActiveMQ.
And openEJB. So we have server
Yeah,
container, I guess, Tomcat.
Yeah, it's server container Tomcat. Actually, openEJB. So there are a couple of course exceptions. So openEJB, like we were talking a while ago. So openEJB is actually built into TomEE itself. So there are a couple of situations where the specs are actually built inside.
Yeah.
So openEJB is one of them.
Yeah, and this is amazing because the full TomEE Plumie version 8 milestone 1 is 65 megs, which is amazing, right?
Yeah, and I mean I believe that if we go and actually look into all the stuff, we might be able to even reduce the size a little bit. You know, the one of the problems, well, not exactly a problem, but sometimes you're using a couple of libs to do some integration code, and sometimes you're just using like a couple of methods of that lib, and sometimes that lib takes like 1 meg or so. But if you look into the amount of code that you use on that lib, they're just like a few Ks. So if we wanted, we might just go to that lib because it's like Apache license. We could just copy the code and use it internally, and we just drop that lib. So that's like 1 meg out, and just keep like the few Ks of bytes of the code that we just copy. But of course, that gives some work that has to be done.
And I don't think it is really necessary because already now it is a really small, and it really doesn't matter. So I did lots of evaluations, container sizes, what you can optimize, and in the real world, it was never worth. So if I use TomEE, I always use TomEE Plus, the largest possible distribution, and it was surprisingly small. Yeah,
and if you use if you use WebProfile, which is what people end up mostly using because it has the WebProfile implementation of VE, it's only like 40 something meg, so it's even
exactly. The WebProfile is 41 meg, and the TomEE Plumie is 65. So you can see, I don't think it is worth to save 20 megs for a server. Who cares about that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And now,
so now what you did? So you got the TomEE 8 before Java 1 a couple of weeks, and you had to integrate Microprofile. So you implemented the Microprofile specs, or you just integrated them?
So we have some of the Microprofile specs, they were already implemented on Apache projects.
Which one?
So the ones that were implemented on Apache projects were configuration, fault tolerance.
The configuration project was I forgot this was the prior Java 8 proposal, right?
No, it's a configuration project for Microprofile.
For Microprofile, okay, the dedicated one, okay.
Yeah, the dedicated one. So fault tolerance, openAPI, open tracing, REST client. So REST client was actually already implemented on CXF. So
they always had it, right? They always had an opportunity to use proxies.
Yeah, but they always had that. The only thing that was required was to actually go over there and import the API for Microprofile REST client, and basically make it work with the expected API, right? So I actually, it wasn't me that did that. There was some other person in the community, John Ammett. Not sure if you know him. Maybe yes. So he did that. He just made a pull request to the project, and they happily accepted. And we're already using it, so then we just had to import that other module. So REST client and what am I missing? So I say configuration, fault tolerance,
Open
REST
API.
client, open API, open tracing, metrics. And the one that we were missing was JOT propagation. So that was actually implemented by us.
There's a JWT-MP, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And okay, so you are actually Microprofile 2 compliant?
So we are Microprofile 1.3 compliant. We cannot really say we are 2 yet, even though we do support already all the CDI 2.0 and JAX-RS and JSON-B and stuff. But there are like 2 or 3 specs that are not really there yet. So there is like a JWT 1.1 update. There is at the moment there is like a pull request for TomEE to update the JWT version to 1.1 with all the behavior expected on that spec over there. And then I believe there is like an update on either metrics or for 1.1 or health to 1.1. I don't remember which one it is. But basically we're missing like 2 minor updates to like some versions of some specs, which we didn't implement yet. But after that's done, then we can say that we are 2.0 compliant.
Which is remarkable. I mean, yeah.
So most of it is there, but we cannot just say that we are there yet because we're still missing those minor updates to a couple of specs.
And is there a TomEE distribution which includes both full Java 8 support and Microprofile, let's say 1.3 or 1.8? Which distribution do I have to download?
It's one called Microprofile.
And this Microprofile also includes Java 8?
Yeah, so the Microprofile flavor of TomEE, it's built based on WebProfile. So basically, when you get the TomEE 8 Microprofile, you get WebProfile plus Microprofile. There are plans that include Microprofile on Plume
or Plus
and Plus as well.
Yeah.
We didn't want to do it yet because we thought that it could be a little bit disruptive at first because it's like we are adding a couple of new things in the server, right? And so we are asking the community to try out this new one first to see if everything's okay. And if we have enough, when we have enough data and see that everything, people are happy and work nicely, then we'll move to add Microprofile to the other flavors as well.
Is it a lot of work? Because I think it is really important. So in all my projects, if the clients are using TomEE, we are using the Plus one. And you asked me before the show how my conference went.
Yeah.
So that was the WJAX. And what I did is I actually shown what you can achieve with Java 8 plus Microprofile. So I have to admit I underestimated the Microprofile because at the beginning was more about runtimes, like how it was called, Whitefly Swarm and Pyara Micro, and you had the application composer, and I was absolutely not interested in that. It's okay, we have already the servers. None of my clients will switch to something else. But what happened then? More and more application servers, and finally TomEE as well, they ship both. So you can have Java 8 plus Microprofile, which is actually great because then I can use, I consider this Java 8 like a stable operating system, and the Microprofile is like the new cloud native stuff, which I really use. For instance, metrics and configuration and a little bit health checks are in all my projects right now. So I think it would be really important to integrate that.
Yeah, I mean the work is not really that's like a one-day work to have that integration working for Plume.
Yeah,
that's not really the problem. I mean, there is really no problem. It's just that we, as a community, we thought it was just better to start with a separate profile or start with a separate or a new flavor of TomEE for people could try it out. And if the response was positive, then we could move to the other. And I mean, because I mean there is like some integrations that were done inside. Of course, we had people already reporting bugs on that particular version, so we have to fix them. So I think we did this for safety.
Okay.
You know?
Okay, for safety.
But I believe that when we get into final, all the other flavors of TomEE gonna have microprofile built into it.
When we can expect final?
So I guess that, I mean, it's always a hard question because that's the community that decides that, right? So I can speak for myself. I would like to have final as soon as possible. Realistically, I believe that probably sometime next year in January, February, or something like that. And I'm only saying that because, I mean, we are in November, and as you know, December people are a little bit off. But I believe that maybe the first couple of weeks or the first month of next week will be like a realistic date.
So my question now: how the community decides that? So what is the process of releasing TomEE?
Okay, so the community, what we do is when we want to do a release, basically we'll just send an email to the main list saying we want to make a new version of TomEE, and we usually publish what are the changes from for that particular release. And then if we give some time, like usually like a few days or even a week, for people to speak up and say, hey, I want to have this feature in as well for this version, or I want to have this fixed for this version, and so on. So then we can prepare everything. And after we go for that process, then we do the actual release. And that release, of course, includes versioning the project and building all the binaries and do all the signing and uploading everything to staging repos. And after that, we follow the Apache release process, which means that we have to deliver to the community all the binaries, all the source codes, all the signings of all the binaries, so people can actually check that they are okay.
So who is proposing the release? Is it the TomEE committers or the community?
So usually it's the community can propose to do a release. Anyone can propose to do a release, and any member from the community can actually start it. But then it always requires the help of a committer member, because usually that's the person who has commit rights to merge the codes if there is something that requires to do merging, and usually it is. When you do the release, of course, you have to change POM versions and create tags and all of that stuff. So someone starting the release and doing the release can be anyone, but then he also requires a committer to do the actual release.
Okay.
So for me, actually, it was I was the person that done this TomEE 8 milestone release. It was my first release that I've done on TomEE, and I was actually made a committer like a few weeks before that, so I actually was able to do both. But still, I have help from the other committers and the entire community to push the release forward. Because
what is the ratio? So how many committers come from TomEE Tribe, and how many committers are outside TomEE Tribe?
So on TomEE Tribe at the moment we have like 5 or 6, and the community, I mean, I don't have like an exact number right now. I can look into the project. But like active more, they also have like 7 or 8 active committers, but there are then maybe like 30 or 40 in total. But of course, I mean, they sometimes just like a one thing commit, or they end up not committing some stuff for a few weeks and then they come back, or then a few months. You know, it's like that's like an open source project. Like people work on that when they have time. Us on TomEE Tribe, I mean, we also support open source, so I have to feel how to say this. I won't say. I mean, blessed is not the right word, but I have to feel like a privilege because the company gives me time to actually work on open source, which you cannot say this from a lot of companies, right? So yeah, the company gave me time to work on all of this, and
yeah, your company is truly remarkable. So I had a chat at Java One. I was on your booth with Amelia and David, and this is really like I don't know. This is like true open source company, and they're doing this because they believe in it. So this is the huge difference. I mean, yeah. Now at the WJAX conference in Munich, and I even think at Code One, someone asked me, what is my opinion about Spring versus Microprofile in Java E? And I don't have a lot of experience with Spring, so I see it from time to time in projects, but usually I'm full-time Java E developer, and my clients are really happy, so there is no reason to switch to something else. But the question back to you, why you are actually working on Java E and not on Spring?
So I have to say that so remember the first commercial project that you asked me about? So that project was actually mixing Java E and Spring, and that was like on E5. But when I was looking into the Spring stuff and EE, I always look into this regard, which was use EE when you really need the standards, which is most of the stuff. But if for some reason, it might be a crazy reason, doesn't matter, and you need to do some customization, then maybe you put some Spring in it. So that's what we actually did. So we tried to keep the standards as much as possible, but sometimes, I mean, there is like some crazy stuff that you're required to do, and then you end up adding some Spring to actually do it. No, I believe that, but that was on like an E5, where, for instance, I can give you like a really simple example, and that's probably why I came up with all the batch stuff. So this project we did require to have batch processes built in that, but there was no batch specification on E5. It only came on E7. But Spring had batch, and actually the E7 batch specification came a lot from the Spring guys.
And therefore it looks a little bit like Spring, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, as you see, that was like, I think it was like a perfectly reasonable option to use Spring for that particular problem, because you didn't have it on E, so you have to rely on something else. So I believe that E did close some of the gaps. So like adding the batch, or adding JSON P or adding JSON B, which stuff that we're missing. So I believe that now it's a little bit easier to actually build these projects just using EE and not having to rely on Spring. But I mean, if people like to use Spring, I have nothing against it.
No, me neither. But sometimes I get a question and I don't know what. This actually answers very similar to you.
Yeah.
So my option was always look at first in Java SE. If this is not enough, I go to Java EE. And if this is not enough, I look at the other options. And the problem with Java EE is there's already everything I can imagine is already there. So I don't have lots of reasons to take additional frameworks into it.
Yeah. So I one of the things that I believe that the pivotal guys that are behind of Spring, they do very well is and I think that we don't have on EE, unfortunately. There were a couple of tries to do it, but they are not working, in my opinion. But basically, what I'm trying to say, if you go to the Spring website or if you go to the Pivotal website, you have like this huge comprehensive documentation around everything. with all code samples. And when people look about something on web, what if, for instance, they will look, I want to do like a JAX-RS endpoint, blah, blah, blah. Most of the first hits they're going to have the Spring hits.
Okay.
Right? So even for a newcomer that's coming in, and if he's looking to do something, most of the times he's going to find the Spring website.
That's actually a very good point. And the last Airhacks TV on Monday, someone asked me why companies are using Spring Boot. I was like, okay, I have no idea, because it's popular right now, and this could be the reason, because it
is popular because they've done a terrific amount of work on marketing it, and which, I mean, it's not a criticism. I mean, they've done their job, but they built this really cool website that pretty much has everything. And unfortunately, what do we have on the east side about that? We don't. We have the tutorial on the Oracle website, which it's not really that great. But other than that, there is nothing there. Like probably all the vendors on EE have their own stuff, but it's not like a really good way to actually put out there and say, hey, if you want to do. So what basically I'm trying to say is, if someone comes to you and say, like, give me the resource on the web for me to go to actually learn how to use EE, where do you send them to?
Yes, you're right. So
there is no central piece, and I think I remember that you some time ago you wanted to have like a website called java.ee or something like that, right? But for instance, on Spring, if you say, hey, if you go to this, I'm not exactly sure, I don't remember what's the website now, I think like spring.io, you go to spring.io and basically you have everything that you can do with Spring over there, with like all the code samples, all the Maven dependencies you have to add. You just pretty much copy, and then with Spring Boot, you just go over there and you just do a couple of clicks and it'll generate a project for you. There is no equivalent on EE at the moment.
Okay. So we need more marketing work.
Yeah, I mean, we need more marketing. We need like, I think we need especially a central piece resource where it can direct people to go there. So, because for instance, if you go to Red Hat, you probably say, hey, what is the resources? They might point you to their website, to where, for instance, to the wildfire resources. And if you go to IBM, they will point you to the Web Liberty resources. And if you go to TomEE Tribe, we'll point you to the TomEE resources, right? But basically, you're spreading out all the people. Now, if you just say, hey, you go to this Java EE resource and you tell all the people to go there, not only you have a central piece of information that people can cooperate and collaborate and make it richer. And as you know, I mean, I'm not like a super specialist on this, but I mean, you have your blog as well. I'm not sure if you look about a little bit about all the SEO stuff on Google.
No, I do nothing. No time.
But basically, I mean, the way that websites and people try to make them popular is to optimize the SEO. So when you search about the keyword, your site shows up before the others, right? And if you go on Google and you search about something and you get the first one you get is the Spring resource, what do you think people are going to use?
Yeah, you are right.
So
now the funny story. I delivered a keynote at JCon, and so you know me, so I don't have lots of slides, and I just hacked an application So I started with my usual thing is Java 8, then Microprofile, then Docker, and at the end OpenShift, just to show some clouds. And at the end, the attendees came to me and see what was it. I was like, what do you mean, what was it? This was an application server. It's like, application server? Why it was so fast? I say, I mean, not fast. It was actually slow. On my laptop, they run everything. I had Docker running at the same time, another Docker instance for OpenShift, my IDE, and a server behind the scenes. I say, it is actually the slowest presentation I ever gave. They show me, okay, because they use Spring Boot, and it takes a lot longer to start. Why? I was like, I have not enough experience to help you with the start time. But I mean, what you saw is what usually happens in projects, except, some crazy architect puts all the dependencies he can find to a war, and then it will take forever even to unzip the war. But usually it's really fast. And what's interesting right now is that, like, the situation reverses, right? So, like, Microprofile, TomEE, and openLiberty are very thin and dedicated, and because of the popularity of Spring Boot, it tries to cover everything. So let's see.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. So, I'll give you a little bit of secret on how TomEE is so fast. So the reason why things are usually slow is because you have to scan stuff on the class path, right? And what we did in TomEE is we usually know what are the jars that you have to scan for. So, for instance, let's just say, think about the common projects on Apache, like commons lang, commons IO, commons blah blah blah. So usually, what applications server do, they basically give them a class path, and it'll just scan everything for the annotations that they require to enhance classes, right? But we know already that you're not going to find anything on commons lang or commons IO or wherever, because we know there's nothing over there.
Yeah.
And this can be applied to a lot of other jars. So what we actually do is we have an exclusion list, which we exclude all the popular libraries that we already know that there are no.
So you have blacklist.
Yes, they are blacklist.
Cool.
So basically, that's why it ends up Tom being so fast, because when you pass in a war file and you pass in a lib, and that's on the class path or on the class loader of the container, we end up mostly looking into your own classes, and that's it.
Cool.
There is no much scanning at all.
Now, you where people can find you on the internet, and what I know is you are also organizing a conference or meetup. So if you can provide the links and URIs to the references to your conference going on in Java user group. And
yeah, thank you very much. So people can find me on Twitter on @RadCortez. So that's an R, a D, and Cortez with a Z in the end.
Twitter, right?
Sorry?
This is Twitter?
Twitter, yes. That's Twitter. And actually, it's pretty much everything. So cool. Rad Cortez, you can find Rad Cortez on everything. So if you look Rad Cortez on GitHub, LinkedIn, Facebook, basically every possible social media that you can think of.
Google Plus, of course.
Yes, well, that's gonna go away. Did that go away?
Yes, it will. So this is
my
information.
I know. But I was thinking if it already went away or
no. I didn't. I have an account at Google Plus, but I didn't post it anything, and I have followers and whatever, but I never did something with it.
Yeah. So remember when I told you about SEO? About doing the optimization for web search and stuff like that. So the reason why I signed up for Google Plus was because you were able to. I don't know if you already seen, sometimes when you search, there is a picture of a person that appears next to the link. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. And then I started to look into that, and basically, if you have your blog associated with your Google Plus account, and you basically have to add some weird links over there, when you search, then your picture of Google Plus will show next to the link on Google search.
Okay.
So that's why I signed up for a Google Plus account
Okay.
to be able to have my picture next to my links when people search for them.
Your pretty face, right?
Yeah, my not so pretty face, but you know, yeah, but you know that makes a little bit the difference when people see like a link with a picture
No, you're
and
right.
without
This is
without the picture.
there should
So
be a difference. Okay, so there is your
uh,
Red Cortez on Twitter. What
yeah,
else?
and then our meetup or our jug, it's called Coimbra Jug.
Uh-huh.
So you can find that on meetup.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we have our session. So we're gonna have a session, or we're gonna have like a double sessions on in a couple of weeks, 20 November, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna have a person here called Julio Farman. I'm not sure if you heard about him before. He's working on Amazon, and he's going to do a couple sessions. One about hybrid compute for cloud Java,
Mm-hmm.
and the other one is about deep learning in the cloud,
Cool.
also with Java. So we're very excited about that, and so let's see how that goes. And finally, so the conference that I'm doing, it's called JNation.
Mm-hmm.
We done the first edition this year.
Mm-hmm.
We were very surprised because we end up on the first edition. We end up having 500 attendees.
Yeah, this is really good.
Yeah. So this year, or actually next year, we already start to organize it. So we had a date until yesterday, but we had to change it yesterday. So most likely the new date's going to be 4th of June next year.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Adam, you're invited to come.
4th of June. Okay.
4.
Mm-hmm.
So we hope to get you here.
Mm-hmm.
And we did partnership with a JavaScript group.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna have a track for JavaScript as well.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that having I mean, it's kind of like Oracle and Code One wanted to do it, right? I mean, it's now like all the projects end up having like multiple language in them.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that having just a conference just for Java, it's I won't say it's a waste, but I think that most developers end up like using other stuff as well. So I believe that if we add them other experiences that might help them.
Sure.
So that's why we're having a track for JavaScript as well. And we are hoping to get around 700 to 800 participants next year.
Cool.
It's only a one-day conference, so we do it on summertime because, as you know, have you been in Portugal before? I don't remember.
I was
have
several times.
Okay.
I was actually for consulting. Several times I was in
Lisbon. Probably.
Lisbon at the stock exchange. Then IES, I think IES, or this is like social insurance.
Oh, really? I consult there for like 4 or 5 months before.
Yeah, but it was I think 10 years ago or something. Yeah. So I was several times in Portugal actually.
Cool. So I hope that you've been here on summertime. So as you know, we have a very good weather. I'm not sure if you like the food, but I think our food is like one of the best in Europe.
Yeah. What you even have, I remember, is like stomach or something, right?
What? Which one? Sorry.
Stomach with blood or something.
Oh yeah, that's.
I forgot the name. Yeah, but this was just funny.
Yeah, I mean, but there we have other stuff as well.
Yeah. No, I just remember this just for fun. But the food was excellent, actually.
Yeah. So if you like to come here and spend a couple of vacation days, I mean, the conference is just one day, so there is not really that long, and people can just come here and be in the conference, and they'll just go and relax on the beach, or do some other activity.
Cool.
So I mean, you're invited to come. We hope that you can come.
I would try. Yeah. I cannot promise you anything because
I know
my world is at least as crazy as yours. Is my time.
I know. I mean, your world is more crazy than mine. I'm pretty sure.
Time is not expendable. This is my problem.
Yes. So conference on 4th of June. The website is jnation.pt. So it's still linking to the old website. We're gonna publish a new one for the conference next year. But if people would like to go there and see what happened last year, then you can have like a pretty good idea on what's going on. And I think we had like a very cool lineup of speakers last year. So we had like Stephen Chin, Simon Maple, Ray Tsang, Bruno Borges, David Delabasi. So, I mean, those are the speakers that you can find on like first-class conferences, right?
Yeah. And the last thing is, of course, the reference is tomee.apache.org, right? tomee.apache.org.
Yeah.
So, thank you. It was really a pleasure. And if TomEE is released, we can talk about TomEE a little bit more. But I think it was a great introduction.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
No, Adam, I mean, thank you for the opportunity to come here and speak to you a little bit. I mean, it was really fun. I hope that we can do this again in the future. So thank you so much for having me here, and I hope that the people enjoyed our conversation.